Most people are going right into the conversation saying,
I was wondering if you were interested in hearing a cash offer.
what I'm doing is making sure I'm lowering their guard. I'm not assuming anything. I'm gonna let them come to me. Why you can't get a deal to the closing table. It all starts with an intro. Now, what I wanna go over with you right now is the crappy intro most wholesalers are using. And it's super simple. More importantly, the homeowners have heard this a million times over and over and over. So what does a crappy intro sound like? Is John available? So right off the bat, you're calling with uncertainty. You don't even know who you're talking to. Most leads come with at least a name. So why not address them by their name? So you're giving them an out in the very beginning. So you say, is John available? Now, by dumb luck, if you get them to actually stay on the phone, most are saying this line right here, which has been regurgitated over and over and over, is I wanted to see if you are interested in a cash offer on your home. Or I wanted to see if you are interested in a cash offer on 123 Main Street. Now, why does this not work? It's because everybody's using it. There's no differentiation between you and the other 1,000 phone calls that they got. So these two lines, all you're simply doing is bunching yourself together with all the other calls. All the bad calls that they've gotten. So immediately the homeowner goes, another one of these. Not available, not interested, not selling. That's why you hear that over and over and over again. So this is what I want to do. The most important part of the call is the very beginning, the intro. Because if you can't get past the intro, you're never going to the closing table. So what I want to go over with you is the perfect intro for wholesale real estate. Now, why do I know this works? Because I've closed hundreds of deals, done millions and millions of dollars simply by sounding different than the competition. And if you're just getting started in the wholesale real estate industry, your biggest hurdle you have to overcome is all the phone calls the homeowner got before you ever called them. That's your biggest hurdle. So what I want to do is give you the word for word tracks that if implemented, you get immediate results. And what does that equate to? You getting more offers and you getting more deals to the closing table. So I'm going to go over this. What I want you to do is grab a pen and a paper, jot this down. Here's the cool thing. This is step one of my 5-step sales process. Now, I always say, if you get every single one of the steps right, step 5, which is where you actually close the deal, closing is the easy part because now they're dealing with somebody that they like, trust, and want to do business with. So let's dive into the perfect intro. Now, on the first one, it was, hi, is John available? What we're going to do is we're going to assume the person we are talking to. We're going to go in there with confidence. So it's, hey, John, this is Eric. I'm following up with you about a property on 123 Main Street. Now, what I'm doing here is I went in. Very first thing I did was say, hey, John. Immediately, the homeowner is, holy cow, this person knows who I am. I'm going to give them my time, right? So we're not giving them an out. It's, hey, John, this is Eric. I'm following up with you, meaning we've spoke before, John. So you called him by his name, you introed yourself, and now you're saying, I'm following up with you. Even if it's the first time you've ever spoke to them. Now, this intro works if you are cold calling a homeowner for the very first time, or you've received a lead, whether it's PPC, whether it came from a cold calling company, where they already vetted the lead and they submitted it to you. So this format or framework works for all leads, okay? So we're gonna go into this one more time. Hey, John, this is Eric. I'm following up with you about your property on 123 Main Street. It was referred to me by a referral company. Now you hear my language, you hear my tonality. I'm speaking very clear. I'm speaking with confidence. I'm not going too fast. I'm not going too slow. Then what I'm going to say is it looks like they paired your property with us because they thought we might be a good fit. Now, again, if we go back to the first one, which I don't want to keep going back and forth and back and forth, but most people are going right into the conversation saying,
I was wondering if you were interested in hearing a cash offer.
what I'm doing is making sure I'm lowering their guard. I'm not assuming anything. I'm going to let them come to me. Okay? Now, it looks like they paired your property with us because they thought we might be a good fit. They also mentioned here in the notes, John, that you were possibly interested in maybe selling the house. Now, I want to emphasize some things in this paragraph right here in this line. So, something that I've done is they also mentioned here in the notes, John. So I've already said the homeowner's name twice. So I'm making this very personable, right? I'm not going to go through my entire intro with only saying their name one time. I want to continue to say their name throughout my intro. Then what I don't want to do, again, separating myself from the competition, doing a pattern interrupt, meaning something they've never heard before. I know what the competition is saying. So what I want to do is I want to make sure my word tracks don't trigger anything that would group me together with all those other amateurs, okay? So they also mentioned here in the notes, John, that you were possibly interested in maybe selling. Possibly and maybe. All right? Why do I say that? I don't want them to assume I'm coming in to buy the house. I don't want them to assume that, yes, I'm making the decision for them. What I'm doing is I'm lowering their guard. I want them to come to me. So again, they also mentioned here in the notes, John, that you were possibly interested in maybe selling the house. Now, question mark. What most people don't do after a question mark. A question mark is, for my side of the conversation, it means stop. Stop for a brief moment. They're either going to say yes, no, or they don't make any comment, which means keep the conversation moving. They're going to let you know right here if it's a no. Now, there's rebuttals that go with a no objection, but what I want to do is just simply get through a perfect intro. All right, now we're going to go in after that. We're going to say, well, and this is where I'm going to set expectations and let them know I need to see if the property qualifies. The reason I have this section right here is because these homeowners are used to being bombarded with phone calls. They're used to always saying, I'll make you a cash offer on your house. Again, this is going to be a pattern interrupt where they have to question, wait a minute, I've never heard this before. This is different than all the other phone calls that I've received over the years. Okay. Now, well, the property, the point of the phone call, or excuse me, let me take a step back. Well, the point of me reaching out, John, is we might, again, emphasize, might be interested in acquiring a couple more properties in the 12345 zip code. And I wanted to see if your property qualifies. Again, look at the two words that I've circled. Well, the point of me reaching out, John, again, said the name again, is we might, lowering their guard, not assuming anything, we might be interested in acquiring a couple more properties in the 12345 zip code. And I wanted to see if your property qualifies. Now, most people are used to just assuming, yes, they're going to make me a cash offer. The reason I use the word qualify is who doesn't want to see why their house might not qualify? Again, it's simply a pattern interrupt. I am saying something completely different than what anything they've ever heard. So after we say qualify, I'm going to go and say, now, I know you get a ton of these calls. I'm letting them know, I already know you get a ton of these phone calls. I already know you're irritated. I already know I'm not the first person that's called you. I want to get that out of the way. I want them to know I know more about what you've been through than you think I have. Because the hardest part about my job is all those other phone calls that you've gotten, right? So I'm going to say, now, I know you get a ton of calls about this, so I'm going to make it quick. Meaning, I'm not going to take up a bunch of your time. The reason I say this right here, I'm going to make it so I'll make it quick, is I want to buy myself more time. Again, everything I say is to lower their guard. I'm going to make it quick. On this call, one of two things is going to happen. We will get your property qualified and make an offer, or the property gets denied, and I'll tell you why. Okay, again, qualified, denied. They're going to stick around to see whether their property qualifies or if it gets denied, because they're going to want to know why somebody like us won't buy their house. Why would they possibly deny my property and not make an offer? If you can get all the way to this and say it word for word. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very top and I'm going to say this without stopping. And I want you to hear the difference between this intro. Is John available? Oh, hey, John. I wanted to see if you are interested in getting a cash offer on your home. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that you might have said before? Or I wanted to see if you are interested in getting an all cash offer where we pay all closing costs. You don't have to pay any commissions. Does that sound like something you've said before? Or would this sound better? What would be easier on the ears if you were calling a homeowner? So let's take it from the top. Again, this is the perfect intro to get a homeowner to stay on the phone with you, where you get to buy more time to ultimately make an offer and go into step 2, which is where we're going to figure out why they even want to sell the house in the first place. Okay? Now, hey, John, this is Eric. I'm following up with you about your property on 123 Main Street. It was referred to me by a referral company. It looks like they paired your property with us because they thought we would be a good fit. They also mentioned here in the notes, John, that you were possibly interested in maybe selling. I'm going to pause. Well, the point of me reaching out, John, is we might be interested in acquiring a couple more properties in the 12345 zip code. And I wanted to see if your property qualifies. Now, I know you get a ton of these phone calls, so I'm gonna make it quick. On this call, John, one of two things is gonna happen. I'm either gonna get your property qualified and we're gonna make you an offer, or for some reason it gets denied and I'm gonna give you the reason why. But by the end, one of those two things is gonna happen. Fair enough? And I am with absolute certainty, you get all the way through this, the answer that they are gonna tell you is sure, yeah, let's see what happens. And then now you're gonna go into the very end of the intro, and I'm gonna give you a little bonus round right here, which I don't even have this written down. Is at the very end of the intro, you're gonna wanna say, well, I appreciate the time you've given me so far, but before we get into actually talking about the property, whether or not we're a good fit, is grab a pen and paper for me real quick. I wanna have you jot my information down. And the whole point of that in the intro, because we're reaching out to these homeowners, right? This is virtual. I do everything over the telephones. So when I call somebody, I'm interrupting their day. I don't know what they have going on the other end of the line. They could be playing with their kids. They could be cooking dinner out in the yard. Who knows what they're doing, right? Everyone's answering mobile phones. They could be doing a million different things. So what I want to do is I want to get complete control of that phone call after I set expectations of what's gonna happen, right? I've got their attention, I've introduced myself, I've let them know we're gonna see if your property qualifies, but before I get into figuring out why, I'm simply gonna say, grab a pen and paper so I can have you jot all my information down. Again, I said a little bit ago, I know you get a ton of these phone calls, and probably not one of them has even given the common courtesy of giving you their information in the event you actually wanted to do business with them. So I'm gonna make sure this call, John, is different than the rest of them. And I'm just separating myself. Everything I'm saying, the homeowner is like, wow, this is different. And if there is any level of interest of them wanting to sell their house, this intro followed by taking control of the phone call, getting them engaged, having them write your information down. Because the reason I have them write the information down is not only so I can take control and get them engaged, but at the end of the call, when I go to ask them to take the order, to sign a purchase contract with me, the last thing I want them to do is ask me, who am I doing business with? I've already got rid of that objection. It's right in front of them, on their table, wherever they're at, I have it front and center. It's like me putting a name tag on their table to where they know exactly who they're dealing with. More importantly, they have my name on their table, but I am saying their name throughout this entire conversation. So do not use the crappy intro, use the perfect intro for the wholesale real estate industry, which ultimately gets you to more quality conversations, more contracts, which leads to you getting more money in your bank account. Hey, if you like this video, what I want you to do is subscribe, share it with friends, family members, anybody that you think would gain interest or value from this. More importantly, stay tuned for the next one where I go over some of the tonalities and talk about step 2 of being able to dig into why somebody would actually sell their home at a discount. Hey, what's going on? I want to congratulate you for making it to the end. What does that mean? You're in the 1% club. No one else stuck around. You did. What I want you to do is subscribe. More importantly, comment below. That way I know exactly who you are and we can get to know one another. Every single week, by you turning your notifications on, you're not gonna miss the sales training that's gonna keep you in this 1% club. Comment below, subscribe, I'm gonna see you in the next video. Let's continue to refuse to lose.